Wait. Before we actually start the video, there's something I've always wanted to do. The following is a fan-based review. Dragon Ball, Dragon Ball Z, Dragon Ball GT, and Dragon Ball Super are all owned by Funimation, Toei Animation, Fuji TV, Shueisha, and Akira Toriyama. Please support the official release. You know, I decided to give myself an easier video topic, and I was like, hey, why not Dragon Ball movies? I regret my decision from this title alone. I don't think I need to explain what Dragon Ball is, do I? Fine. Okay, so Dragon Ball is the story of Son Goku, and he's insane from Earth.
He means Saiyan.
And he also likes to deck people in the schnoz a lot.
I'm sorry, that's a new one.
If you know me in the slightest bit, you know I really like this series. Like a lot. So, and I decided on this. So yeah, I'm gonna be ranking all the Dragon Ball movies. In order of release, of course. But I'm gonna be doing something much more harder on myself. This will be including the OVAs and the special. From the original Dragon Ball all the way to Super. This is gonna be a long one. Anyways, play the intro. This one was enjoyable. Not too great, but pretty good. This one acts as an alternate scenario to the Emperor Pilaf saga, which is seen at the beginning of the original Dragon Ball. This one starts off with meeting the same characters in the same way, but there's just slight more differences to tell that this is a movie. But my main issue is the pacing. By the 15-minute mark, we're already introduced to all the main characters from within the original Dragon Ball. And while it's understandable that they're trying to fit 13 episodes into an hour-long movie, I feel like there still should have been moments where the characters actually got properly introduced, rather than just keep on going through all the beats of the original Pilaf saga, as by the 15-minute mark we've already been introduced to our main cast. The only difference here is that Chi-Chi and the Ox King aren't in this movie. And the difference here is a girl named Pansy, and she wants to help out her village by seeing Master Roshi. That's about it. Again, I'm going to bring up the breakneck pacing that this movie has, as in the middle of the movie it sort of slows down real badly, but with the climax it picks itself right back up. But the plot just sort of resolves itself as Shenron just comes in getting summoned, reverting this guy back to normal, which is cool, I guess. Again, this movie was enjoyable, but not that great. Curse of the Blood Rubies is currently at the top of the list, but who knows if it'll last for that much longer. This one is more of an extended version of Goku and Krillin's training with Master Roshi. Basically that beginning part when they were about to start training, yeah, the test they're about to do, yeah, it's a different kind of test they're taking this time. So with their task being said, Goku and Krillin set off to Devil's Hand, where the Sleeping Princess is supposed to be. The others learn about what Goku was set off to, and they chase after him. During this time, Goku and Krillin are racing to see who can get to the Sleeping Princess first, while Krillin is being an asshole to Goku the entire time. And honestly, some of it feels really uncalled for. But he ended up warming up to Goku in the middle of their training. This one he ends up just doing it out of nowhere, and it feels incredibly forced. Oh yeah, Bulma gets kidnapped by Count Lucifer. That happened in the middle of the movie. In this movie a lot, Goku and Krillin end up going in and out of Devil's Hand over and over, and it just gets real tiring to see them do it over and over. Oh yeah, the princess the entire time was actually the name of a gem. Yeah, I don't know. The Count's plan was just to blow up the sun and it be night forever, but in the middle of it, Goku turns into a big monkey, sets them all free because they were trapped in there for some reason. Pork cuts off his tail and they have to run all the way back to the Count before he's about to blow up the sun. There wasn't really a big fight here. Goku just lands 2 hits on him and just goes for the thing that's supposed to fire at the sun. Goku destroys the thing and the entire castle blows up along with killing the Count, with the movie ending and everyone just standing at Devil's Hand. This one is a lot worse than Curse of the Blood Rubies. This one doesn't have any of that big fanfare, it just feels like an extended episode. The animation is fine, I guess, but again, it still doesn't feel like it's a movie, it just feels like another episode. So yeah, Sleeping Princess of Devil's Castle is gonna go underneath Curse of the Blood Rubies. Well, we got one more movie until we head into DBZ movies. So yeah, let's hope this one's a banger. This was going to be a little shorter because it's literally just the Tien Shinhan saga. So far for these movies, they've just been shortened down versions of sagas from the original Dragon Ball. This cannot be said enough here. This one was just the Tien Shinhan saga, but shortened down to 45 minutes, which if you know how long the original saga is, that is incredibly ridiculous, which is itself having the original breakneck pacing that the first movie had. At least with the first two movies, there's something, at least there's slight changes to where there's a reason to actually watch them. This one, not really. You're just better off watching the original Dragon Ball rather than this. The animation is on par with the original Dragon Ball series, so again, you're not really missing much. One thing I can actually say though, I do like how they kept in the Dr. Slug crossover with Raleigh showing up in the middle of it. That was pretty neat. So yeah, mystical adventures going underneath Curse of the Blood Rubies but above Sleeping Princess Devil's Castle. Welp, onto DBZ. So we're through the first batch of movies. You can tell they were finding their footing with these movies as they were just repeats of sagas, or they were just outright not good to watch. But to be fair, I'm not really hating this thing the entire time. So far, it's just been okay-ish. But I'm kind of looking forward to what comes next, as the next batch of movies are probably some of the most iconic moments that come from Dragon Ball history, or just repeats of said iconic moments. But again, I'm kind of excited. This one was a way bigger step up compared to the last couple of movies. This one is more about Kami's past and shedding light on how the Guardian of Earth is chosen. And the Guardian of Earth before Kami was chosen saw the evil within Garlic Jr.'s father, Garlic. Garlic, who was not happy with the choice of not being chosen, ended up trying to take the position with force, but it ended up getting sealed away by the predecessor of Kami for all of eternity, and vowed that 300 years later that he would have his revenge. And now with Garlic Jr. coming in to continue Garlic's plans. Garlic Jr. and his henchmen end up kidnapping Gohan, which sort of sets the course of everything happening. This movie also get reintroduced to some characters like Piccolo Jr., as it takes place after Piccolo Jr.'s saga, but before the start of Dragon Ball Z. The Dragon Balls also play a big factor within this movie, as Garlic Jr. wants to have all the Dragon Balls for him so he can wish for immortality, and he actually pulls it off as well. This is also the same movie where we watch a toddler trip out on acid. This scene came out of nowhere and was never brought up again in the movie, and is incredibly bizarre to watch. Me trying not to make nostalgia critic references aside, while sure this movie can't really happen since a lot of stuff contradicts itself at the beginning of Z, I can't help but say that I still had a fun time watching this one. This movie is more or less to shed light on Kami's background and how the Guardian of Earth is chosen, and the causes that happened after he was chosen. The animation is really good, it's a little bit of a step up compared to the original Z. The backgrounds and lighting on characters look like they actually belong in a movie, and you can tell it was a massive step up. Earlier how I said they were going to be trying to replicate some iconic scenes from Dragon Ball Z, it kinda already happened with Gohan lashing out on Garlic Jr., which was very reminiscent to how he lashed out on Raditz, which caused him to be sent to the dead zone. The fight in the castle was really fun to watch, as I really like the animation and movement when it comes to the characters. Overall, I enjoyed the movie. Hell, I'd even recommend it. Dragon Ball Z Dead Zone is currently at the top of the list. Let's see if it'll keep that placement. Not even gonna try to lie, this movie was really boring. The pacing in this movie is really bad. It's just slow as all hell. It only picks itself up right around the climax when everything starts going a bit over the top with the fight against Dr. Wheelo. But that doesn't really save this movie. Again, this movie tries to drag itself out for an hour and it's not doing a good job at it. Overall, even if we include the pretty decent ending, this movie is just not good. I wouldn't call it mediocre, but the taste left in my mouth after watching it was not good. The animation overall is just fine. It's a little bit better from what we got from Z. That there's a little bit of complicated shots from within the animation. The fight against the three henchmen just came and went. The first one Goku didn't really have much trouble with. The second one he had to be saved by Krillin and Gohan. For that particular fight, it was just fine. Again, the best this movie has to offer is that it's a just okay movie. Hell, I could give a basic summarization within a couple of sentences. Dr. Wheelo wants Goku because he's the strongest guy on Earth. That's it. So yeah, Dragon Ball Z, the world's strongest, is going underneath mystical adventure but above Sleeping Princess Devil's Castle. But before we get on to the next movie, we got a TV special to talk about. Words cannot describe how much I love this. Everything about this is just really, really good. I like the world building and setting. It's much more different compared to the first couple of movies that we've already been seeing. The plot is pretty simple. It's an origin story, talking about the birth of Goku and his father Bardock, and the destruction of Planet Vegeta. It gives some insight to what life was like before Planet Vegeta's destruction.
To go into a little bit more summarization, Bardock is on an expedition and gets the ability to see the future from one of the Knassa inhabitants. And during this entire time, he's getting visions of planet Vegeta's destruction, Goku being sent to Earth, and later events such as Goku about to fight Frieza on Namek. The fights in this are probably some of my favorite in this ranking so far. Since Bardock doesn't really have any of the abilities of a Super Saiyan, he has to rely more on wit rather than actual raw power, and it's just a joy to watch. The animation is stellar. I loved watching everything on screen. It was such a joy to watch. And seeing Bardock put on that bandana from the blood of his comrades is one of the most rawest things I've ever seen. Seeing world building within Dragon Ball is a rare sight since it was never really its forte. Seeing this thing come to life makes me want more world building from within the world of Dragon Ball. If there's one thing to take away from this, is please watch this one. If there's one I want to recommend the most, this is it. Please watch this one. Bardock the father of Goku is going at the top of the list, easily. Anyways, back to the movies. I remember enjoying this one a lot as a kid, and personally, yeah, I still think it's a good time. Turles is a cool villain, and the concept how lower class Saiyans tend to be made from the same genes is pretty cool as well. That explains why he looks so similar to Goku, besides the darker skin tone. This is also the movie that introduces Gohan's pet dragon, Icarus. Yeah, I remember Icarus before, you know. Yeah, Tree of Might is a pretty cool concept as well, sacrificing a planet for an all-powerful fruit that grants the person who eat it immense power. Despite the fruit being an overall concept, hell, most of the movie's concepts are pretty cool, I feel like it didn't go far enough for it to be amazing. Again, the movie is good, but it could have gone further. The final fight between Turles and Goku was pretty nice to watch, and after eating the fruit was a pretty fun watch as well. The animation is top-notch, and the backgrounds in this movie look real nice and lush, and lighting on the characters look real nice too. And this is where the animation is a slight bigger step up compared to Z and the actual movies itself. The climax from the final fight was pretty cool, using the energy from the Tree of Might to actually use the Spirit Bomb. Overall, yeah, I like this one. Turles and the Tree of Might is going below Bardock the father of Goku. Also, Turles is black. This movie was certainly something. Not gonna lie, this movie couldn't keep my attention throughout the entire time. It was pretty boring. This is the movie that started to play licensed music in the background. Mostly rock songs, at least in the dub version. And honestly, I think it fits pretty well. Sure, it doesn't have the same feel as the Kikuchi score, but I'm not gonna lie, I feel like the rock songs fit in really well. Lord Slug is a Namekian that wants
To take over the world.
and uses the Dragon Balls to wish for eternal youth. You can't get any more basic than that with the plot. The fights in this are pretty good actually. Piccolo fighting one of Slug's soldiers was entertaining, and Goku versus Slug was a fun time to watch. Overall, the animation is nice and the lighting is really good. This is also the movie that has our first transformation. It's called Super Saiyan, but it's not really at the same time. It's been given the name False Super Saiyan or Pseudo Super Saiyan by fans, as it has the yellow aura of a Super Saiyan but not the hair color, and False Super Saiyan was only made for this movie. The Yoshi transforms into a big Super Namekian while we get an exposition dump on what Super Namekians are. And while the final battle was cool to watch, the way Lord Slug gets defeated is honestly pretty cool, as it reminds me how Kid Goku defeated King Piccolo by blasting a hole through his chest. But I think that was unintentional. And I like the callback earlier using the whistling to actually distract Lord Slug and hurt his ears. Overall, this movie was not great, but it had some moments that I really enjoyed. So yeah, Dragon Ball Z Lord Slug goes underneath that zone. This one is really basic, but I love it a lot. Cooler saw the death of Bardock and saw the pod of Goku go into Earth, and Cooler basically said, if it's gonna bite Frieza in the ass, it's his problem. And yeah, now he has to come to Earth and kill Goku. I like the setting of the forest fights that I see throughout the movie, and the animation is so far the best throughout this marathon. And seeing Piccolo's fight against one of Cooler's squadron with the stretchy arms and everything was a cool sight to see, as the movement was really nice and fit everything perfectly. One of my favorite fight scenes throughout this movie was the three-way fight. I love seeing everybody move so perfectly throughout everything, and the music was so good it fitted perfectly. Seeing the Mario team and the Axum Rangers and the Koopa Bros all coming together in this one chaotic brawl. And this shows the Mario team's balance of coordination throughout this entire fight. The fight between Cooler and Goku being this big out chaotic fight where they start out underwater and then now they're in this big part of the forest. And then Mechasonic coming in with 4 Chaos Emeralds only going semi-super and killing the Axum Rangers instantly. Cooler is just really cool to watch. The animation helps out with this as well. Cooler going to the Kamehameha wave like it's nothing. Goku going Super Saiyan as a last resort option. It's all just fun to watch. An energy bomb that Cooler throws and Goku just throws it back at him, getting blasted into the sun. This movie is just fun to watch. Even with the basic plot, it's pretty good. The pacing was also really good. Everything went by at a good rate. Basically, what I'm trying to get at is go watch Super Mario Bros. Z. It's pretty good. Cooler's Revenge is going to be at the top of the list. While Bardock, the father of Goku, had much more world building and development, this one just entertained me throughout the entire time. Some of these movies have given me some of my favorite fights, scenes, and pieces of animation so far. And honestly, I'm enjoying this a lot more than I thought I would. Especially with these. Sure, I think a couple of them are pretty mid-tier, but they're not bad. At worst, they're just pretty boring, but they have some moments. Unless it's World's Strongest. So yeah, we got another batch to go through, and this one's gonna be a mixed bag. This one is nobody's favorite. Okay, so this movie shouldn't really happen in a continuity sense, because it's very obvious we saw Cooler not survive his blast from the sun, and I'm assuming with something like this.
What the fuck?
This one has Cooler take over New Namek with the big spaghetti star, and Dende calls Goku, saying that he needs to save the Namekians from the takeover. This movie is a rehash of previous things that happened on Namek. You know, Cooler trying to destroy Namek, taking it over of it, and then later coming back to Earth. Same plans and all. I do like how metallic and menacing that this Cooler looks, but that's all he has going for him. Him looking menacing doesn't make him actually seem like a threat, since all you can really do is just punch him really hard and he'll break apart. Cooler isn't as badass or as imposing as the previous movie made him out to be. Hell, we don't even seem to get to go final form with this metallic-like state. The idea of having these Skynet-like Terminator versions of Cooler is sick as hell, but we don't really see him what makes him that much of a threat and imposing besides the multiplying thing, since all you need to do is defeat the source and they're all gone. And the fights here are pretty mediocre, to be honest. Since Cooler's decaying body, I guess, is not really much of a threat, since it doesn't really do much besides attach wires to Goku and Vegeta, and then it's like, oh wow, they're screaming, and then they break free from it. I do like the fight when Mecha Sonic comes in, attacking Mario and Sonic, and then chasing after them in the 8-bit zone, and we have this cool 8-bit fight in the Minus World. That is sick. And the fight while they're inside the pipe maze is pretty good as well. And Mecha Sonic and Sonic coming in this big old clash in the pipe maze is so fun to watch while Mario's trying to avoid them running around. It's a really fun time. Oh yeah, Vegeta's also here. Honestly, the story wouldn't really change much if he wasn't here, besides getting punched in the dick a lot. Either way, this movie is bad. This movie is going underneath Sleeping Princess Devil's Castle. This is the worst movie so far. This is where that one meme came from, you know?
Don't you lecture me with your $30 haircut!
This movie was just okay, with the animation being a big step up compared to Return of Cooler. I think this movie's biggest issue is that a bunch of nothing happens. We see the androids destroy the city, but that's about it. And despite the short runtime, it still feels pretty long. And I think the movie picks up around after Android 13 transforms into its super form, but that's one of the few moments I actually like about this movie. I think this is the best part about the movie, is the androids' designs. Honestly, I think they're pretty cool. But again, cool concepts alone can't really save a movie. But yeah, even then, after that, nothing much happens as Goku kills it with the spirit bomb and absorbs all of it. It feels real slow and it feels like it's trying to drag out. Especially with this being only 45 minutes, it still feels pretty long. This is mostly just a rehash of the Cell Saga, as a creation by Jiro absorbs a set of androids. Same plot points and all. And in a timeline sense, this movie doesn't make no sense, since it takes place during the middle of the Android Saga. Well, at least Goku gets punched in the dick. Too bad about Goten not existing though. Anyways, this movie was just okay, and it's going underneath Curse of the Blood Rubies. History of Trunks. I never heard of that one before. And I didn't do too special. Let's check it out. Why the hell the TV specials been the best part of this marathon? Seriously, this is really good. For those who don't know, this is a much more darker story from Dragon Ball. And this one gets pretty dark. Like, there's consequences here and everything, which is something you don't normally see within Dragon Ball. In the first couple of seconds, we see Goku is dead, and now all we have left is the Z Fighters to defend the world, and now they're dead. All we have left is Gohan. And seeing these androids being a big imposing threat is a sight to behold. I love watching these guys destroy cities and showing us how powerful they really are instead of telling us, "Isn't that right, you stupid blue?" And it makes you want to see more of them. One nitpick I can bring up is how the society is supposedly functioning in a post-apocalyptic world. but that is incredibly minor. The animation is pretty good. While it's not as good as the previous movies that we've been watching, the animation is still pretty good. Since it's mostly an extended DBZ episode, it still ain't bad. I love the way the backgrounds look in this episode, especially when we see Trunks go Super Saiyan. Oh my god, the Trunks Super Saiyan scene is one of the best scenes I've seen within DBZ. Seeing Trunks' training, trying to go Super, and seeing him actually gain Super is incredibly satisfying. Cause seeing him go Super feels really satisfying and it feels earned, and it's also helped out with a powerful scene that comes within it as well. And the death of Gohan is an amazing scene, especially the scream that Trunks gives off when he's turning into a Super Saiyan, with an amazing performance done by Takashi Kusao. Eric Vale's performance in the scream is also really good. While it's not as good as Kusao's, he did a pretty good job here as well. Even with the super form, the androids can't be beat no matter what, and the way it ties all together, the time machine and how he's going to change the future is really cool, as we're seeing all the gaps being filled in from the anime or manga. The fights here are pretty good, not my favorite, but not bad at all. My favorite fight here is Super Saiyan Trunks against the androids, as even then he still didn't have a chance and he still gets his ass kicked. And seeing him with his last moments somehow surviving against the beatdown against the androids, it is really cool to watch. This is going at the top of the list. Please watch this one. Here we are. Everyone's favorite, the Big Kahuna. What do I think of this one? Well, yeah, I think it's pretty good. I don't know really how to describe Broly because the plot can be summarized very simple, but there's a lot more to it, obviously. Broly's motives are one of the pettiest things I've ever heard in my entire life. Damn, he just like me. The world building here, even if it's a bit of little, I still like the little we got. Mainly seeing King Vegeta was pretty cool. The animation so far is the best of this entire marathon. I love the lighting coming off of characters as well, even making Goku's hair look more blue than black. And the shots and backgrounds look real good here too. And I love how much of a monster Broly is made out to be, as we even see Vegeta's arrogance crumble, and we see Broly take out 3 Super Saiyans like it's nothing. I mean, the first couple of seconds we see him destroy an entire galaxy. Ben Shimada absolutely kills it as Broly, and Vic Mignogna does a great job here in the dub as well. The fights here are easily my favorite so far. I love watching Broly just beat down on the Super Saiyans no struggle, and this time the licensed music actually fits in perfectly. It helps certain scenes of the dub. While Broly's motives are not exactly the best, I still had a fun time watching this movie. Oh yeah, we have a twist villain here. Paragus, Broly's father. It's handled how you'd expect, pretty decent. We see his ulterior motives at the beginning of the movie, and later the twist gets shown. And then he gets killed by Broly. Piccolo shows up later in the movie, and they still getting their ass kicked. Neat. The way Broly is defeated is pretty sick, as Goku gets energy lent from everyone, and Goku is still getting beat by this big beatdown that I really like watching, with Vegeta finally giving in and giving his energy, and the comet coming down on a final showdown, and puts Broly to rest by impaling him in the chest and exploding. While this movie ain't even close to the best, this is still a great time. While sure this movie struggles with having a captivating story, or at least a narrative that's worth its runtime, but this movie is way more style over substance. You get all this flashy animation and cool fights, but with a story that's just okay. While I still had a great time, it's nowhere near the best. Broly is going underneath Bardock the father of Goku, but above the Tree of Might. This is one I've never seen before. Most of his movies so far I've seen portions or watched a lot as a child. All I know is that TFS still owes me a Bojack. This one is about a tournament that takes place after the Cell Games, with everyone there except for Vegeta. Man literally ain't fit to fight because the one person he prayed for his downfall is now actually gone. Damn, he just like me for real. The tournament portion of it is actually kind of fun to watch, even though it kind of gets hijacked halfway through with the main villain. Speaking of the main villain, we don't even get introduced to him until halfway through the movie. Hell, he isn't even established early on either. All we get is an exposition dump about how he was freed after Goku blew up the planet because of Cell. The animation is a tiny downgrade, but it's still pretty good compared to the rest of the movies that we've been watching. The lighting and environments look the best here. I love the way everything just looks. And the settings and backgrounds is much more different than a typical Dragon Ball setting, and it looks really good. Bojack being a demon that was sealed from the Kais is dumb, and it didn't get established early on or show him freed. One issue I noticed is that one of his goons mostly does the work taking out the rest of the Z fighters, and Bojack doesn't even fight Gohan in his first form, fights him in his second form. Man does a big blast that gets deflected by Piccolo, and then he just stands there menacingly the entire time. The fight with Piccolo is really fun to watch, even though he gets shafted by Vegeta later on. And then once Gohan becomes Super Saiyan 2, he kind of just becomes a pushover, just like in the Cell Saga. Hell, that's the best way to summarize this entire movie, is that it's just a rehash of the Cell Saga, specifically the Cell Games portion of it. This movie is just okay. It has the same issues I have with Broly, where it's style over substance, but the style here is toned down way more considerably. This is the same issue I have with Super Android 13, where I didn't have much to talk about for the movie, because what you see is what you get. Just a repeat of the Cell Games saga. Is it at least a good rehash? Not really. It's just okay. Bojack Unbound is going underneath Dead Zone but above Lord Slug. Welp, this is our first OVA. I'll be honest, even after watching this 2 times for both parts, I cannot describe what I just watched. But I will try my best. Plan to Eradicate the Saiyans from 1993 is extremely scattered, as this was based off a 1993 Famicom game. And yeah, it's following the same plot. It's kind of following the NES game a bit too close. It gets to the action right immediately, but that's kind of to its detriment. Because by the time this already happens, I kind of just want this stuff already to end, especially with it being an hour long. And I don't know why this is one of the longest so far in this entire marathon, and it's not very entertaining to watch. This couldn't keep my attention throughout the entire time, and it's certainly something I wouldn't be able to go back to. Some Jiro look like wants to destroy all the Saiyans for some reason, and yeah, that's about it. They break a bunch of satellites. The Saiyans are constantly switching locations to where it's impossible to keep up to where they're at now. The only scene I could really remember is the time when the villains come back, but like they all get killed immediately, so this is just a scattered mess. And I can't be bothered to remember what happens in part 2. I'm done here. Honestly, I would not recommend this one. Plan to Eradicate the Saiyans is going underneath Sleeping Princess Devil's Castle. This was not good. This certainly was a mixed bag of different movies. I'm slowly starting to hate this because some of these movies have been just pretty bad and been boring me to tears. At least with the previous batch I could say there's something about every single one, but for some movies here I couldn't really say much. Let's hope this gets a little bit better. We're at the home stretch of the 90s, we're almost done. Wait a minute, what the hell?
Shit!
Jesus Christ!
Is this the One Piece movie rankings video? Is this a One Piece movie ranking video, dude?
No, dude, this is a Dragon Ball movies. I think someone else is doing that already.
Oh. Okay. No, I get it. I get it. I'll walk myself out. All right.
Karanju, where are you going? We drove like 26 hours to get here? Come on, you could still do the collab.
What are you talking about, man? This was it. What do you think the past 26 hours of driving were for? I was gonna rank those One Piece movies, dude. That's over now. They stole it from me, Haroon. They took it. That was today! Today!
Ladies and gents, tonight's performance of Late to the Ranking was performed by
Karanju.
Give him a round of applause. This movie is shit. There's no other way around it. This one shouldn't even happen. We literally saw Broly get impaled and explode. How did he even survive? And he somehow managed to survive for 7 years? Goten, Trunks, and Videl looking for the Dragon Balls and ended up finding a village telling a legend of a beast. This beast here is Broly. It's very obvious it's Broly. This nigga Broly gets woken up by Goten crying or something like that, because it reminds him of Goku. One of my biggest problems with this movie is that this movie shouldn't even happen in a continuity sense, and even then a whole lot of nothing just happens in this movie. The impact and animation of Broly doesn't feel as satisfying, as the way he hits doesn't have the same weight to it. Especially with his beatdown on Trunks, it doesn't feel satisfying, or it doesn't feel like his hits connect in any way like the original. This nigga's beating down on a 9-year-old, I don't know what you're trying to prove here. While the animation is still better from the average DBZ episode, I'm not gonna lie, it took a bit of a hit on it. It feels a bit more static, I guess is one way to describe it. Sure, it has the better lighting, but that's about it. And the licensed music just plays whenever. In the previous movie, there was nothing even played, and in Broly, it was actually timed really well with the movie. Even though we don't even get an amazing performance by Ben Shimada or Vic Mignogna. He just does grunts and screams. And they sound like they're reused from the original. Nice. How Broly gets defeated is okay, I guess, because there's sort of a fake out scene where like, oh, this nigga's actually still alive, but no, never mind, he's actually dead for good. And then somehow Goku just suddenly comes down from heaven and it's like, okay, I'm about to kill this dude right now, and they do a family Kamehameha, which is the only good thing about this movie. But like, you couldn't help the entire time? He only comes down when his son's about to get put on a t-shirt. Nigga, you stay dead and don't come back, or you come down from those pearly gates and actually fight him. Choose one! Anyway, this movie is terrible. Bottom of the list. Stop with the Broly movies. Okay.
Why am I always on bottom?
I beg your pardon?
Niggas on that. Broly's back, but this time he's got a new form or whatever. This movie is terrible. I just want to get on with the next movie. Okay, so the geniuses at Toei Animation made this movie connect to Second Coming, so if you want to watch this one, which why would you? You're gonna have to watch the last one. For some ungodly reason, they rebuilt him for some reason and made him into a bio warrior that will definitely follow the commands of this one rich dude. I forgot his name. Oh wait, he's uncontrollable. I didn't see that coming whatsoever. Yada yada yada. The beatdowns don't feel satisfying. Animation slightly worse. Blah blah blah. I'm done with these Broly movies. By the time they actually defeat Broly, they just fake out BS moves. So it's like, actually, he's not dead. And he comes back in a kaiju form, but then he actually goes down one punch. But then he actually goes down immediately right after. And then there's a teaser for a potential fourth movie. No! Either way, this is going at the bottom of the list. I don't know, either one of these two are terrible. I just want to get on to the next movie. If it sounds like I'm completely disinterested in this, it's because I 100% am. The most these villains get is a one and done deal for these movies. There's only been ever 2 exceptions for them bringing back, which was Cooler and Broly. And for some reason, making 2 more movies about Broly was a great idea, even though these movies are just as terrible, if not worse, than Return of Cooler. And even then, the ideas that they bring aren't really that original for this series. Sure, I like the concepts for Return of Cooler, but these are just repeated concepts for Broly. Because we're expecting me to get angry within this part, but no. Really, I just wanted to get it over with so we can get on to the next couple of movies. Either way, these movies suck. Oh, thank God, an actually good movie. This is one I noticed has been getting a lot more praise as of recent, considered to be one of the best movies so far. And in all honesty, I kind of agree somewhat. The setup here is pretty simple. In Otherworld, there's a spirit cleanser and it blew up a worker from Otherworld, turning him into this big thing called Janemba. His first form was having a childlike personality and hell even sounding like a baby. Or to be more accurate, a young child. Hey, take that image of Fat Boo off the screen. And somehow Janemba opens up the gates of hell for the worst people causing chaos in the living world. There's some points in this movie that feel like a repeat of the Boo saga, like down to some of the most extreme plot points from the original Boo saga. And in all honesty, I think it's handled a little bit better here, mostly because it doesn't drag out its runtime. Like down to stuff like the Super Saiyan 3 transformation, the main villain, the fusion techniques. But there are some differences to where it's unique enough from the Boo saga. Like we see some returning villains, like every single one from the previous movies and even some from Z. However, we only really saw Frieza get pummeled. It's pretty cool to watch, I'm not gonna lie, and the pacing is cranked up to 11. And I feel like it's for its benefit, to be honest. I like the fight between Goku and Janemba's first form, and as well as the fight between Gogeta and his final form. The only scene that I felt like that really dragged out was the failed fusion against Janemba final form. It's handled a bit weird, and hell, even Janemba's final form is handled weird as well. I feel like he transforms for the sake of having a transformation, since his base form was already enough of a struggle against Goku, and I feel like he's only here just to make it seem like the stakes are higher. However, I think Janemba's really fun to watch. Seeing this nigga teleport all over the place, he got a cool design with all these purples and reds. It's all striking and nice to watch. The animation is a big step up from the last couple of movies, and everything looks nice, and the lighting's actually different this time from the previous movies as well. The sounds and movement of Janemba is also really nice to watch. Hearing that sword slash and everything is just really cool. And also, Vegeta has an actual reason to show up in this movie. Man's in the afterlife, so he has nothing to lose with the fusion thing. And the fusion with Gogeta is one of the rawest moments in the entire series. It's one of the rawest things I've ever seen, with Janemba having these niggas at the brink of death, and the scene of him coming up with this big fanfare. It's so cool to watch. And it's pretty cool we get to see Gotenks in a scene right after. However, the final fight with Gogeta and Janemba is kinda anticlimactic. Like, Janemba becomes a total pushover. That's one of the big complaints I have, Janemba becoming a total pushover after Gogeta just happens. Another big complaint is the way the plots keep on switching. It just don't feel right. Those are 2 big complaints that keep this movie from going up any higher on the list. The concepts here are really cool and are well executed, but there's something that making it going higher that could have easily improved it. Fusion Reborn is going above the Tree of Might. This is the last Dragon Ball Z movie we're gonna get in the 90s. The next Z movie we get isn't until 2013. And what do I think of this one? Yeah, it's pretty alright actually. This movie is a bit more slower paced and making Trunks center of attention here, which is pretty cool. I like seeing other characters get the spotlight for once. This one's about a guy named Tapion. He's from a distant planet who was trapped in a musical box sealing away a monster. There's one old guy asks for our heroes to open up the music box that Tapion is trapped inside, knowing that he has ulterior motives in mind. And this basically revealed that this guy did genocide on Tapion's entire species. I really like Tapion's design. It reminded me a lot of something I'd seen from Chrono Trigger, which makes a lot of sense because Toriyama was a character designer in Chrono Trigger. I like seeing Trunks and Tapion's friendship built throughout the movie. It was really sweet to watch, as Tapion sees his younger brother within Trunks. As Tapion at the beginning of the movie, he was shown off to be pretty moody and not wanting to do anything with Trunks, but over time he ends up coming around to him. Again, it's very sweet. Going back to the slow pacing I mentioned earlier, I feel like it does it to his benefit, as it tries to tell a much more dramatic story compared to the rest of these movies so far, especially comparing with these dynamic shots. Overall, the animation is really good, better than the last couple of movies, but nothing too special to make it on par with some of the best that we've seen. The climax of the movie is pretty promising, as Tapion is struggling to keep the beast within him, but it ends up getting released either way, reuniting the top half and the bottom half of this monster. As he tries to seal it one more time, he ends up asking Trunks to kill him. It's a really well done scene, only to get faked out in the end as it ends up getting released and Goku ends up taking the win by doing a big old dragon punch. Honestly, I feel like it would have been a lot better if Tapion was actually killed by Trunks. Either way, the scene would have been a lot better because we see Trunks and Tapion's relationship built up over time through the movie, and it would have had a genuine felt of loss, as the movie is centered a lot around Trunks. As the scene of Tapion telling Trunks to kill him is really well done. I love the voice direction here, it's really good. But he ends up not getting killed and ends up going back to the past, which means that the events will likely happen again, but I think it's multiverse theory, so I don't know. Either way, it feels kind of like a cop-out. I do like how Tapion gives Trunks his sword, foreshadowing for future events, of course. Wrath of the Dragon is going underneath Tree of Might. Okay, so for some reason we're back at the original Dragon Ball, because they decided to make something for its 10th anniversary. It's a retelling of the original Dragon Ball saga, going up all the way to the Red Ribbon Army saga. And man, this animation's really good. I like how he's using the GT color schemes and palettes, which make the colors a lot more nicer and softer to look at. But again, it's kind of weird seeing GT Goku in his gi, but it's still Kid Goku from the original Dragon Ball, but This is a nice watch and feels like that mystical adventure feel that the original Dragon Ball had. It has all the beats from the original as you meet every single character from the Pilaf saga. And it gives off the same vibe and feel as the original Dragon Ball, but a much more higher budget and a story made for theaters. But this time the Red Ribbon Army wants the Dragon Balls for something, I forgot. But the way it segues into the Red Ribbon Army saga is really well done here. While sure it skips a couple of sagas, I feel like it does a really good job segueing into Red Ribbon Army. While the action here we get very little of, until near the middle to the climax of the movie, it's really well done. Keep in mind this was animated all in cells, so the amount of drawings made and animation made for this movie is impressive. One of my favorite scenes is the forest chase scene, the way everything moves so quickly. The Red Ribbon HQ break-in is also really good as well, everything's animated so fluidly, and everything just looks so nice to look at. And the climax against General Black is really good, as we see Android 8 coming in and saving Goku last second. His sacrifice was nice, and the scene Goku shouting reminds me a lot of Goku going Super Saiyan for the first time on Namek. Foreshadowing for things to come since this took place before Z. The Kamehameha against General Black was also really good. My only real complaint is that it went on for a couple minutes longer than it needed to, and Android 8 should have not really been revived, as his sacrifice was really well done here, and the shout that Goku doesn't feel warranted anymore after it turns out he's okay in the end. For something that was meant to be the 10th anniversary of the series, they went all out, and the GT opening playing at the end is the real icing on the cake. This one is super underrated and it's really good. This one's going underneath Bardock, the father of Goku. Please check it out, it's really good. Well, here we are. This is the last of the 90s, and it's a GT movie. Let's check it out. I'm not crying. You're crying. I'm gonna try and keep my GT bias out of this one, but man, this is really good. My cat just got on my lap. Why are you coming here mid-recording? This one stars the great-great-grandson of Goku, Goku Jr., trying to live up to Goku's name, as he's named after one of the strongest fighters in the multiverse. Seeing him being picked on in school, this kid clearly does not have the same spirit as Goku. This one doesn't have it. He's an anxious kid, and you can clearly tell he has fears and stuff like that. The original Goku was fearless. He wasn't anything like this kid. We see him getting picked on at his school knowing that he's getting trained by his grandma Pan. And during this time, Pan is lecturing Goku how he should be stronger and he should be just like his great-grandfather. During this time, she ends up contracting an illness and is on the verge of dying, as you see this kid break down, and it's pretty sad to see. So Goku Jr. sets out and trying to get the Dragon Balls to heal her, believing that it's only a myth and sets out to find those. There's major themes of building up courage, as during this time as Junior gets sets out, he ends up befriending one of his bullies, Puck. He ends up seeing the courage that he has within him and decides to join him in this journey. Again, that theme of courage is coming up again. Hell, I like seeing these two interact with each other in the scenes we got with them, even if it's only for a little bit. As we learn a little bit more about Puck, he ended up getting some advice from Pan as well. I love the settings we have in this movie, as we get so much different stuff that we never see in the original Dragon Ball Z nor GT. And seeing Junior's journey to Mount Powers is really cool, as he ended up meeting different kinds of people, most of them not really wanting to do anything with him or wanting him dead. Except for a bear. He befriends a bear. Puck's sacrifice was something I felt like that was handled well, as he wanted to help out Junior cross the bridge, and Goku ends up having some regrets of not grabbing his hand. It's something that bites away to him, and he ends up thinking that Puck actually survived. We actually see some form of loss as we see Junior mourning the loss of one of his friends, and it was someone he didn't even get along with that well early on, but now ends up friends with him. One complaint I have to give though is Junior's Saiyan powers feel a bit forced, as they come in whenever the characters are in major trouble. But man, I love the scene where he goes Super Saiyan for the first time. It feels like something that is earned, and while it's not as powerful as the previous Super Saiyan transformations, I feel like it's pretty good. We see this anxious coward, and now, well, he's not that. The animation is on par with GT, since it's an extended episode of it. And one of my favorite scenes from this entire series is Junior going to Goku's old house where he was raised in, where it all started in. And seeing all of these movies, it feels real nostalgic to go back to where it all started. And seeing how Goku explains how the Dragon Balls work is beautiful. It's one of my favorite scenes. I love this movie so much. Please watch this one. However, the biggest downfall of this movie is that everyone's okay in the end, so there was no need for loss. So, yeah. Anyways, this is going underneath History of Trunks. This is really good. Talk about a way to end the 90s and even the millennium itself. Some of these movies picked itself right back up after the two terrible movies that are Broly Second Coming and Bio Broly. Everything afterwards is really good, like really, really good. Like, if these did not get any better, I would have probably canceled this video outright. So I'm glad it's picking itself right back up. Anyways, we're at the home stretch. Let's end this off with a bang. Oh yeah, Dragon Ball content was just kinda non-existent during the 2000s. It was until this OVA was released in 2008. This one takes place 2 years after the Boo saga, and yeah, it's pretty alright. It's just catching up on what the characters have been up to for the past couple of years. And I kinda like seeing these characters in this kind of setting, without having them be in fights all the time. One thing I gotta give props to is the remade intro from the original Dragon Ball Z. That was a very nice touch they didn't need to do, but they did it anyways. Everyone's having a celebration because Majin Buu has been defeated, and now they're just all hanging out. It's until two Saiyan pods come down and we get introduced to Vegeta's brother, Turles. Turles doesn't really do much in this OVA, he's just like, oh yeah, Vegeta has a brother, and everyone's surprised for like 2 seconds, and everything just goes back to normal. It later gets interrupted again because 2 more Saiyan pods come down crashing and want to deal with Turles somehow. I forgot the reasons why. All I know is that they're as strong as the Ginyu Force apparently, and they get beaten up by 2 kids. Amazing. But as it turns out, they were actually faking it and they can clone themselves, I guess. But then Gohan comes in later telling Goten and Trunks, hey, you should read their ki. And then they manage to beat them down. Until all of a sudden they fuse and make this big thing. Oh, okay. I'm gonna be honest, the fight between the fused guys and Gotenks is pretty drawn out. Like, the fight is fine. Early on it's pretty decent and it gets pretty good. But then it just becomes a culmination of random BS Go. And yeah, that kind of just happens. The animation is pretty good, and I love the new art style they're going for. It's a lot more lighter colors on the characters. It's way better than what we have with Dragon Ball Super's current anime art style. Either way, I like seeing these Dragon Ball characters set in a setting like this, since we usually don't see them like this very often. If it sounded like I'm running out of stuff to say, it's because this is only a 35-minute OVA. I can only say so much about this. This one's going underneath Dead Zone. It's a pretty alright OVA. I enjoyed it. What can I say that hasn't been said for Dragon Ball Evolution? This is often regarded as one of the worst adaptations of all time, if not one of the worst movies of all time. Everything about this movie is bad. I literally have nothing new to add to this conversation. The sets are bad, the character acting is bad, The CG that they use in this movie is bad. The action scenes are terrible. The fact that they didn't make the main character Asian when every other person in the supporting cast is Asian. And it's really stupid that the fact that they changed up everything just for the sake of it being appealing more to Americans, even though Z was already incredibly appealing to Americans to begin with. But who am I to know? I'm not a big Hollywood executive. If it sounds like I'm not mad at this, because I'm not. What's the point of me mad getting at a piece of media that's basically beating a dead horse at this point? I'm adding nothing new to the conversation. Why did I tease out a second movie? Anyways, this is going to the bottom of the list. It's terrible. Plan to eradicate the Saiyans from 2010 didn't work in my video editing software, so I'm doing episode of Bardock now. Oh god, this one was a mixed bag, I'm not gonna lie. Here we are with the last OVA, as this one was made in 2011. This one was bad, I'm not even gonna lie. The idea of Bardock getting sent to the past is really stupid. Somehow Frieza's blast sent him back to the past for some reason, with little hints being shown here or there, with some exposition dumping and some patronizing hints that are like, wait, this is exactly how it was so long ago. The short runtime is made for its benefit, honestly, mostly because if it were made any longer, it'd be way worse. While sure, it's pretty bad, it ain't terrible to how it's made out to be. We later see the village get destroyed by Chilled, and somehow the village reminds him of his soldiers, which makes no sense, or have zero connection. The fight against Lord Chilled is very underwhelming, and so is the Super Saiyan transformation. It doesn't feel satisfying at all. I mean, it's kinda earned, it's out of anger, but really it's just Bardock getting angry at himself. How he couldn't save his comrades or didn't help a kid he only knew for about a couple of days. Oh yeah, the beatdown is also really underwhelming. The animation is fine, but it's more comparable to DBS's art style we have now, and it feels much more static and not very pleasing on the eyes, and you can very tell this is the first time using this art style. It started out okay, but just dropped the ball afterwards. Episode of Bardock is going underneath Return of Cooler. Talk about a downgrade for this character. Hey look, it's our first Z movie back. It's been 9 years since the last one, and let's see if it's any good. This one takes place 3 to 4 years after the Boo saga, and we see Goku training on King Kai's planet. We end up learning about Lord Beerus. He's a destroyer, made to provide balance for the universe. He's looking for a Saiyan god. Basically, he wants to challenge something to match his higher being, as he ends up learning that Goku was the one who killed Frieza, who ends up going to North Kai's planet and ends up challenging Goku to a fight, and he gets his ass kicked even at Super Saiyan 3. Vegeta ends up learning about Beerus, and yeah, he remembers Beerus from about King Vegeta when he was a kid. I like Beerus' introduction here. He isn't necessarily a bad guy, he's mostly made out as the antagonist for the movie, and at most he's just very easily annoyed. There's a difference between an antagonist and a villain, and due to him being a destroyer, he's more in a neutral sense. By the way, I'm going to be calling Super Saiyan God because it makes more sense. The way the Saiyan God ritual is set up is, well, I don't know how to describe it, because they're short of one Saiyan and they end up using Videl's unborn child for the Saiyan ritual. It sounds a lot better in context of the movie. Oh yeah, this is the introduction of Super Saiyan God, or as I like to call it, Saiyan God, because it makes a lot more sense in a later movie. While the animation here is really good, the CG implementation here is awful, I'm not even gonna lie. From the way it clashes to the 2D characters and art here, I'm not a big fan of it, and the new art style, while being a lot better than the previous movie or OVA, it still feels lifeless and static. It doesn't have that same feel as celluloid animation or the way Son Goku and his friends Return looks. And some of the blasts and auras feel like sensory overload from the after effects used here, and it's blinding at times. The Saiyan God transformation is nice, and I like Goku's design. It's a red hair and eyes along with a slimmer design. It's simple, but less is more here. And the fight with Saiyan God Goku against Beerus is sick to watch. I love the
I will not let you destroy my world!
line. It's perfection. This whole fight just screams what Dragon Ball should be. And this is how I imagine Dragon Ball fights looking like as a kid. And the movement afterwards is so sublime, and the way Beerus and Goku move around, it's so good, and with past the days of celluloid animation, and man does it show. While the CG implementation is still not great, I feel like it helps the movie to its benefit. It's a stepping stone, as it provides a lot more better shots for fights. One big complaint I gotta say though, is this movie goes over its runtime a bit too much. I feel like this should have not been an hour and 45 minutes. Would have been a lot better if it was an hour and a half, but either way this movie is pretty good, and that ending, going through every single manga page, is so nice to look at. Anyways, Battle of the Gods is going underneath Broly. Let's see what the next movie has to offer. Oh boy, this one was shit. This one is Frieza getting resurrected and niggas are about to get F. I like how this movie sets up Frieza being the protagonist. It's pretty cool, actually. We see him go through all this training to get his new golden form, even if it's off screen. Personally speaking, this is a weird take of mine, but I think Dragon Ball Super handles Resurrection F a little bit better. While the animation is absolutely disgusting in Super, the way the story is handled is much better. And the way it's done here is done terribly, I'm not even gonna lie. As the story of the movie later changes to Goku being the protagonist, and the way it's done here is not very good. The idea of reviving Frieza is really cool, but the way it's executed here is done really poorly. And for some god-unforsaken reason, this movie is so filler heavy and it's trying so hard to go for its runtime. And somehow being shorter than Battle of Gods, it's really not fun to watch. 30 minutes into this movie and we're not even at the actual resurrection part or anybody fighting Frieza. It's just characters doing stuff and Goku and Vegeta being on Beerus' planet training. I feel like the animation took a bit of a hit here. It still has the same soulless look that Dragon Ball Super has. While sure they've gotten more accustomed to it and it looks more nice, but the movement feels so stiff even with the good parts of the animation, and the way CG is implemented here so sporadically it feels off and jarring whenever we see a shot with characters moving in CG. This is one of the first few movies that actually has a callback to the Saiyan saga, and my god is it handled so poorly. It feels like it's dangling keys in my face saying, hey, remember Dragon Ball Z? You love Dragon Ball Z, remember that? This is one of the few movies that genuinely frustrates me. The fights here are straight up unpleasant to look at times. The way hits connect doesn't feel satisfying. The way everything moves feels so static, it feels like it's moving at a lower frame rate, and the way sometimes CG is implemented is not good at all. One of the few good things I can say about this is the way Golden Frieza is handled. It's actually handled pretty decently. But there's not much else I could say. It's only used to raise the stakes as the plot device, as this is his 4 months of training coming to use. It's not a bad plot device, it's still done decently. The one thing this movie pisses me off the most is the way Super Saiyan Blue is handled. Or the name Super Saiyan God Super Saiyan, one of the worst transformation names. You really could have just called this one Super Saiyan God and the first one Saiyan God. Would save a lot of time there. It has zero fanfare, unlike the Golden Frieza transformation where they actually went all out for it. This one has no fanfare, is incredibly blinding to look at with these after effects they use on the auras, and for some reason it wants to make it treat it as a big deal like the rest of these transformations have been for this entire marathon. No. It's done awfully here. I want to talk about the final fight against Frieza. This is one of the worst fights in Dragon Ball history. I'm not kidding. The way this is all storyboarded and the way that everything feels, it's not good, it's not fun to watch. The animation doesn't feel good. This is one of the worst fights I've ever witnessed. And it's weird to say that because the movie before this had a really great fight. I don't know what happened here. That stupid blast that somehow managed to take down Goku is really stupid. Nigga, you were still on guard. How did that hurt you really badly? And for some reason, this movie does not like Vegeta at all. I don't know why for some reason they robbed him of his win because Frieza could just suddenly blow up the Earth. This dude literally had next to no stamina left. What? And then they rewind time and then Goku steals the win and now everything's back to normal. Frieza's dead again. God, I hate this movie. This movie's going underneath the episode of Bardock. This is terrible. Well, we only got one movie left of this marathon. Let's see how it goes out. Alright, last one, baby. Let's see how they go out. Dude, this one is really good. Like, this movie's animation is either the best I've seen. Not just in this marathon, but probably one of the best animated movies of all time. I'm not even kidding on that. The characters' movement in this is so fun to watch, and the colors chosen here are much better than DBS's color scheme. I'm so glad they changed it up this time. This one canonizes Broly into the current canon, but due to this, they had to make some changes. One of which changing the Bardock special entirely, shedding light on Goku's family. Retconning aside, Broly is no longer petty as hell. This movie opens up to Frieza getting introduced to the Saiyans, and this racist-ass nigga calls them monkeys straight from the jump. It gives some stuff from the original, such as how Paragus and Broly were exiled, but that's about it. They managed to avoid the destruction of Planet Vegeta, and this is the third time we've seen Bardock get killed in this marathon. The world building in this opening is something that I've been asking for so long, and I'm so glad it delivered on it. We cut to Goku Vegeta sparring, and Frieza's little Dragon Balls. Broly is made much more sympathetic here, since he's much more naive and not really a villain. He's more of an obstacle here, as is much more mistreated from Paragus. The pacing in this movie is real good, like nothing drags out for too long and it's all handled perfectly. The movie went by so quickly. And the animation I said earlier is real damn good, but holy hell, it's so fast, chaotic, and frantic. The CG implementation mid-fights is done super well here, and this time it doesn't feel tacked on, or character movement in CG doesn't feel jarring. And the animation being the best in the series and in this entire marathon too. My words alone can't really do it justice. And then Gogeta coming in, it's so fast and frantic, niggas going all over the place, they all fly in explosion. It's just really good. I have never seen an anime look this good before and move so fast. The time break sequence is one of my favorites during the fight, as they're all moving and the CG implementation here is done really well. Vic Mignogna got recasted for Dragon Ball Super Broly, and I think he did a phenomenal job here. No, I will not be bringing up the controversy. My only issue is that Vic keeps the same tone that he had for the original Broly. As in the original DBZ Broly, he was made out to be more of a monster-like thing, rather than just a misunderstood character. Johnny Youngbosh's Broly, I'm gonna be honest here, it's not good. Well, he's a great actor, but his Broly is certainly something. Again, he didn't do a bad job here, but I don't know, I think I prefer Vic's performance here. And I'm not gonna lie, that ending is kind of stupid, but I guess it makes sense. Even though there was like a really big fight, I was expecting Broly to at least die or get horribly injured here. And as it seems like the movie was building up to. Really, I don't have much to say. Anything else would probably just be nitpicking. In this case, I don't really have much to talk about because the story here is disgustingly simple. But that's fine. I'd rather them do something like this. But that's fine, I guess, since I would prefer them not to do anything crazy or try not to do anything thought-provoking. Again, what you see is what you get. This ranking placement is going to make some people mad, so yeah, this one's going underneath the hero's legacy. Again, the disgustingly story is simple with great animation, but I feel like comparing the plots to the two movies above it is not very fair here, because it's actually really well done. But everything else carries this movie hard.
Gonna start.
And that's it. Well, this is a waste of 6 months. I have successfully wasted my time watching a bunch of Dragon Ball movies. Obviously there's some I had to cut out. 2 that didn't work with my editing software, and 3 of which are overview specials for movies, 2 PSAs, and 1 that's an actual episode of Dragon Ball Super. And the other one being the History of Japan special, which I couldn't fit in because it's 28 hours. And also another one being a Dragon Ball Super Broly advertisement. There was also 2 4D rides I forgot to mention as well, which I also couldn't fit in within this video. There was also 2 crossovers I couldn't fit in because of the quality of the video, and also because I couldn't fit it within this video as well. And finally the last one being this weird phone game console thing, and I don't feel like watching this whole thing since it's a choose your own adventure kind of game. I'm only bringing these up because I know something in the comments is going to be like, actually you didn't mention every single special? So yeah, I'm putting this at the end. Now all that's left to do is to rank them all on a list. Yay. Let's just get this over with. I'm so done with this video. Alright, here's the unranked category. Let's get this over with. History of Japan, Super Tenkaichi Budokai, The Real 4D, Kutai Panic Adventure, Kutai Panic Adventure Returns, Dragon Ball Super Broly movie debut looking back on the TV show's climax, Dragon Ball Super Broly X Tokyo Skytree event, movie overview special / the summer vacation special, looking back at it all / end of the year special, Atsumare Goku Waruro. This is the ultimate battle in all the universes, Son Goku vs Jiren, Goku's traffic safety, Goku's fire brigade. And here's the actual movies that matter. Dragon Ball Evolution, Bio Broly, Broly's Second Coming, Resurrection F, Episode of Bardock, Return of Cooler, Plan to Eradicate the Saiyans 1993, Dream 9 crossover. I thought this one was just okay. Plan to Eradicate the Saiyans 2010. It was way better than the 1993 version, but not by much. Sleeping Princess and Devil's Castle, Mystical Adventure, The World's Strongest, Super Android 13, Curse of the Blood Rubies, Lord Slug, Bojack Unbound, Yo's Son Goku and His Friends Return, Dead Zone, Wrath of the Dragon, Turles and the Tree of Might, Fusion Reborn, Battle of Gods, Dragon Ball Z Broly, Path to Power, Bardock the Father Goku, Cooler's Revenge, Dragon Ball Super Broly, A Hero's Legacy, and finally, History of Trunks. You know, I came in this video expecting it to be a pretty easy task when nah. Cause with a movie you gotta discuss a lot more to it, but the problem is with Dragon Ball movies, they are disgustingly simple. They don't try to do anything. What you see is what you get. It's just a Dragon Ball movie. Honestly, I think that's for its benefit. And usually these movies are on a higher budget, so we get to see them experiment more. Or at the very least try something new with these movies. Even if they fall flat on their face trying these new ideas. And really I only did this in preparation of myself for Dragon Ball Super Superhero, which I'm very excited for. especially with the CG looking cleaner than ever. And yeah, by the time this comes out, it's going to immediately be outdated. And hey, maybe I'll do a video discussing my thoughts on Superhero, because hey, I love Dragon Ball. It's pretty obvious from this video's time length. And it was pretty cool checking out some of these movies, some of these I've never even seen before, and making this video was an excuse to watch all of those, since some of these I haven't watched since I was a kid, or I haven't had the proper experience to actually sit down and watch them. Anyway, this has been me, Mario. I hope y'all have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. See y'all in January. I'm so glad to be done talking about Dragon Ball. Oh god damn it!